Hi, I'm Mike Freda, North Haven's first Selectman, and welcome to our show today. You know, down through the years and decades here in North Haven, ladies and gentlemen, North Haven has been a community that the population growth has been a result of people coming in from different communities, towns and cities down through the years. As an example, in the 1950s and 1960s, North Haven's population jumped dramatically with people that came here from New Haven. And during that time frame, many of the people that came to North Haven from the New Haven area came from an area that had a rich tradition. And that rich tradition was the St. Patrick's Church that was in the Hamilton Grand Avenue area on the corner of Wallace Street. More people who live in North Haven today, many of whom today are senior citizens, came from that rich heritage. That church represented so much for many people down through the years. People attended Mass. Thousands of people on Sundays would attend Mass at St. Patrick's Church. People got married. People had ceremonies there. And today here in North Haven, there's a fondness when people look back on that era. That era back in the 40s and 50s and up to the 1960s, up until redevelopment in New Haven, really had a rich heritage, and the characterization of that heritage today is still illustrated by many people who live here in North Haven. As a result of that heritage, as a result of that church, and as a result of all of the people today who live in North Haven that still have fond memories, there's been a year-long tradition at Anthony's Ocean View and other venues in the past to celebrate that heritage, to reunite that neighborhood, to reunite those people that came from that neighborhood. And every year there is this event that's most recently been held at Anthony's Ocean View that commemorates that heritage and reunites people, a neighborhood reunion, if you will. So today my guests are Sparky Mastriano and John Ragozzino, who have been involved with this right from the beginning, this wonderful tradition of reigniting and reuniting a neighborhood, that St. Patrick's neighborhood and the church that was so critical to that culture back then. So Sparky and John, it's great to see both of you here today. And Sparky, I'd like to turn it over to you to give a little bit of background on this.
All right, thanks Mike for the introduction. Yes, what we're doing here, what we're trying to do, what we're doing is, if you go look at the calendar, like we have between the breakfast and the reunion, they're 6 months apart. So every 6 months we have something going on. But right now we got the 6th annual St. Patrick's Parish here neighborhood reunion communion breakfast. This is the 6th. Sunday morning, March 15th, 2015, St. Bernadette's Church Hall, 385 Townsend Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. Buffet style breakfast to follow: eggs, sausage, bacon, muffins, coffee, tea, orange juice, home fries, created by Scarpolino's Restaurant. It's $10 a person. What we do is we have a Mass at 8 o'clock at St. Bernadette's Church, and immediately following, we go down to the hall for the breakfast. And it's really, for $10 a person, you can't beat it. It's really a good time. This is another way of getting the neighborhood together. Instead of once a year, to be twice a year. And we've had great success with both of them. Like last year at this breakfast here, we had something like 160 people. It's really nice to see the old neighborhood people there, our neighbors, you know, something you don't see too often. John. Go ahead, John.
John, why don't you share with us some of your experiences and some of the things that you and Sparky have worked on in terms of this breakfast in the past years?
Okay. Yes, again, it's the St. Patrick's Parish breakfast in March. This is our 19th year for St. Patrick's, including the dinner. So we're going to start off again with the breakfast, which is, Sparky told you, is March 15th. We also are going to do some things in between to follow up. After the breakfast in May, we're going to have another movie night, which is May 22nd at St. Bernadette's Church Hall. That will be free Danish and coffee. And, you know, we keep in touch with the people. After that, the end of May, we're going to do another walk in the old neighborhood of Wallace and Grand and Easton Grand. And then we will continue on to August, where we will be with the St. Bernadette's Carnival. We will have a booth there, which is in the first week in August, which will lead up to the dinner October 4th. So we've got a lot of things going on, and Sparky and I, we push this every year. We work hard on it. And as usual, we will also have honorees coming up, which we will make the announcement at the breakfast. We have a couple of honorees locked in right at the moment, and we're out to pick up 2 more. So with that, we'll be looking forward to doing that, Mike. And we're hoping that everything is going to work like it always does.
You know, John, you mentioned this walking tour, and picture the scene, ladies and gentlemen. I've been part of the tour, and it's very interesting with these 2 fine gentlemen who are at my sides here, along with other people who take this tour. They are people who grew up in the area. So for me, knowing an awful lot about that area, because of family members down through the years, grandparents, and even my father coming from that area, it was a visual tour that really resonated with me. We're walking down around that whole area, and both John and Sparky are pointing out the items, the businesses, the homes that were there from yesteryear that are no longer there. One thing jumps to mind, one subject that I won't forget, is we're walking down one of the streets and there was a fire hydrant on the street. And John said, Mike, when I was 9 years old, we played baseball here. And that was like a landmark back then. That fire hydrant is still there. Seeing the old relic of the New Haven Clock Shop, which was one of the largest employers in the city of New Haven. Many of the people that worked there in the past, who are senior citizens today, live here in North Haven. So John and Sparky, maybe you can share a little bit about that tour.
Yeah, John. Yes, Mike. The last tour we had, Grand Avenue more or less divided the neighborhood. In other words, you went from Grand Avenue to Water Street, from Grand Avenue to State Street. Well, Rags is from the Water Street side of the neighborhood. I'm from the State Street side, but it's all one neighborhood. But Grand Avenue runs in between it. But I think with a lot of us, we had any kind of a store, shoe store, gin mills, grocery stores, you name it, we had it, pastry stores. But one thing I think that everybody overlooked was that the industry that we had in our small neighborhood. We had a lot of big shops there. We had Connecticut Hard Rubber. We had R.G. Davis, we had Quilt and Pad, we had Quilt and Pad, Clock Shop, and all these people here, a lot of the people from the neighborhood actually worked for all these shops here, like Quilt and Pad and all them there, and Board and Carton Company. I remember everybody who worked for the Quilt and Pad for the Carton Company, what they would do is they would used to have them 4x4 white sheets of cardboard, and at times they would have all sports figures on them, little pictures like today that probably worth a ton of money, and they used to bring them home and give them to us, and we used to cherish those there. But like I said, we had everything in that neighborhood. Now, on the end, my end, we got Johnson Square, that's still up. But on the side of Johnson Square now, they got a whole bunch of apartments that are there. So, but the park is still there. Well, Walter Purick, he's gone, and a lot of them are. The grocery store on the corner is gone, but the neighborhood is still there. Go ahead, John.
You know, John, to Sparky's point, then I'll turn it over to you. Sparky mentioned the New Haven Board and Carton Company and those cardboard sheets. Well, I can remember distinctly being 7, 8, 9 years old. My father having worked in the New Haven Board and Carton Company. I collected baseball cards, and I still do today. And my father used to bring the sheets of Topps baseball cards home.
Worth a lot of money today.
Yeah.
John, really, the memories here are really striking.
Yes. Again, the neighborhood was special. We were all family. We all did things together. Our moms went out together. They cooked together. We had block dances on Wallace and Kane. Not too many people can say that. We had some real great times there. And again, the factories, a lot of people, even I worked as a kid. I worked in the clock shop. I worked at D&I Shirt Company. I worked in the candy rubber place. Then we had special places like the candy bowling alleys on Eastern Chapel. I started setting pins up there at 12 years old. And it was great. I had a couple of bucks in my pocket every week. But we had a great neighborhood. St. Patrick's Church, and especially Father Joe Graziani, one of the best priests that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And Grand Avenue was full of businesses. Anything you needed was on Grand Avenue. You wanted to buy a suit, it was there. You wanted to buy coffee, it was there.
Yeah, Mac Miller, Pearl Mothers.
You had Mac Miller, Pearl Mothers, Smolens. What else? Just a whole bunch of them. But it's a great neighborhood, and we've been trying to keep it going. I think we've done pretty well for 19 years. I think it's kind of a record for some Connecticut states. So again, we're going to keep it going as long as we possibly can. And we want to see you people. That's why we're here. So Sparky, if you want to tell them a little more about it.
Yeah, Mike, one thing that sticks out in my mind is that we had two shows close by. We had the Dreamland and Apollo, and once a week we had to go to the Dreamland because in them days when you went, you made a dinnerware set. Right. One time you got dishes, another time you got this, another time that. But one night was at the Dreamland, and the other night was at the Apollo, where we do the same thing, get a different set, maybe glasses, silverware, this or that. But there was always something going on in that neighborhood. And Johnny touched on the priests. Like, we've had a lot of priests in St. Patrick's, and I think the best combination of the priests that we had there were Father McVeary and Father Joe. Them two, they hit it off. They're really good priests, and they helped everybody as much as they could. It was really a nice neighborhood. Great neighborhood. Can't beat it.
And what was the name of the luncheon? That was a sanitary
lunch.
Sanitary lunch. That was a real popular spot.
That was the headquarters. Willie Mack used to own that. Mac Nuzzo. Then Big Bill bought it from Mac Nuzzo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the pastry shop there. What was
Marzullo's,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They were on Wallace Street, right across the street from the school. Then they moved to Hamilton and Grant on the corner when redevelopment came, I guess. And then they went out of business. But they were the best around. They were the best around.
Clock shop, John? We talked about that.
Yes, again, the clock shop. It's still there, and I lived right across the street from it. But there's one distinction on Wallace Street that not too many neighborhoods could say. We had a fabulous nightclub called Lillian's Paradise. It was unbelievable. The people who owned it, the Lumpkins, a wonderful family, and every weekend they had the bands play there. They had singers, they had entertainers, and as a matter of fact, a couple of them. One was Johnny Ray, and for people, my age, you might remember Johnny Ray, the singer. We got to meet him personally. And one other time, there was a movie star there. She made a couple of movies with Harry Belafonte, which was Dorothy Dandridge. We got to meet her, and she also took us for ice cream. So we had some little excitement there as young boys. And it was just great, Mike.
John and Sparky, for those who maybe have just joined us here on North Haven TV, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about is the St. Patrick's Parish Communion Breakfast. And this is an annual event that's been run many, many years. Many of the people in North Haven coming from that area truly resonate with the church tradition of this church back down in those decades and those years. So we put up some information here, Sparky and John, in terms of this breakfast that's coming up on March 15th. But I wanted to share with both of you a personal story that I may have shared with you privately. And you mentioned Clock Shop. We were talking about Clock Shop in New Haven. So picture the scene back in the 1940s. My mother working at Clock Shop, and the management of Clock Shop, her supervisor, had placed a new employee in front of her. And the way it worked back then was they'd be facing each other as employees working at one desk. And the young man had just come out of the Navy. He was about 23 years old at that point in time. And my mother's version of the story was that there was this man, this young man, who kept staring at her. And she didn't know why he was staring at her. But little did she know that he really had liked her and asked her out on a date, which she refused. So one day, this young man brought her paycheck over to Bloom Street in West Haven. She had forgotten to get her paycheck that day. And this young man ended up to be my father, who immediately was struck with my mother. When he brought the paycheck over, my mother didn't really want to talk to him, but my grandmother said, "Mary, he seems like a nice young man, bring him up. Bring him upstairs." And that's how they started to date.
Great story.
Clock Shop itself was not only an employer, but it was a company that brought people together, many of whom met and then ended up getting married.
Great story.
Those of you who don't know Mike, who Mike's father is, Mike's father was Smash or Tarzan. They used to hang around with Big Bill, Johnny Brangie, Joe Guida, Sonny Cal. We used to hang around with all them guys. So that's Smash. That's Mike's father, Smash, or Tarzan, either one.
They all had nicknames in those
All
days,
had
right?
nicknames. Well, if you call somebody for a regular name, they never turned around. Well, wait, what? Okay, so now we got the breakfast coming up, and we would really like to see a lot of neighborhood people there. And if you want to bring a guest, that's all right too. Now, it's the 6th annual St. Patrick's Parish Area Neighborhood Reunion Communion Breakfast, Sunday morning, March 15th, 2015. St. Bernadette's Church. The breakfast is after we have an 8 o'clock mass for our deceased and living members of the parish. Now, after the mass, we go down to the church hall, and we have a breakfast catered by Scarpino Restaurant, and it's a buffet style. Eggs, sausage, bacon, muffins, coffee, tea, orange juice. It's $10 a person. Now you can contact Johnny Rags, 203-239-3229, or myself, 203-239-0025. Now, there's a lot of ways of contacting myself or Johnny, or even some of the committee members. We're in the local papers. We're doing these shows here. We're in about 7 towns: North Haven, East Haven, West Haven, Hamden, New Haven, Guilford, Wallingford. So if you turn on your local TV station, you can get us there. We're also in the newspaper. We're in the church bulletins. We're on, what's his name? Ray Andrewson's show. And we're on the Tony Reno show. So there's a lot of ways of getting information about what's going on. Now, so much for the breakfast. Now, let's say save a date. And the date that you want to save is October 4th, and that's when we have our 19th annual reunion at Anthony's Ocean View. And that there is on a Sunday afternoon, October 4th, 2015. It's at Anthony's, and you can't go wrong if you go to Anthony's. It's 450 Lighthouse Road, New Haven. Hot cold hors d'oeuvres, 1:30 to 12:30 to 1:30. Open bar all day from 12:30 to 5, and at 1:30 it's a sit-down meal. It's surf and turf, and that's at 1:30 p.m. It's $50 a person. So this is what you want to save a date, okay? Now we've had good success with this here too. Last year we had over 400 people. Well, we'd like to see the same thing this year, maybe even a little better. But we'll take one step at a time. First is the breakfast. Then it's this one here at Anthony's.
You know, John, what I've seen in the times that I've come, and I've gone the last few years, is the wonderful atmosphere, the ambiance of when people come together, how they reconnect. And it happened to me many times that I've been there where someone came up to me, Sparky, and said, "Are you Mike Freda?" And I would say yes, if someone from another town. "Well, I knew your father." And then I'd hear the stories that I never knew, some of the reminiscence and some of the memories. And when you see people come together who maybe haven't seen each other for many years, maybe even decades, or come together and meet and share stories, it really is a good thing to see, John.
But this is what this is all about, Mike, is to bring the neighborhood back together again. You know, we see each other a couple of times a year, which is better than not seeing anybody at all, or if you got to go to, you know, where I'm talking about and see them. But that's why Johnny and I and the rest of the committee, we do this here. And the committee actually works hard to put this all together, both of them. They work hard, the breakfast and the Anthony's deal.
John, go right ahead.
Okay, I just want to tell you again, this show, we do a show in August too for the dinner, so you'll be hearing from us again, July and August, around there. Again, starts off with the breakfast. In May, like I said, we're going to have a movie night. We'll get the word out to you, no problem. As a matter of fact, this year we did something else too. We sent out 100 mailings to the people, you know, that join us every year. So we've got 100 people out there that know what's going on as far as the breakfast and what's coming up. And again, we're going to do the walk in May, and then August there'll be the carnival, and then of course the big dinner. Again, we need your support. You know, we're working hard. And another thing, I'd like to mention that the price is, for the last 6-7 years, has been the same. We haven't changed it. You know, we want you there. We don't want to put any pressure on anybody. So it's the same thing again, $50 a couple for the dinner. And again, you get a lot. As Sparky told you, if you come just for the bar, it's worth it. So, Mike,
All right.
That's $50 per person on on Anthony, on the lunch at dinner at Anthony's. It's $50 a person, per person. But like, we're nonprofit. Whatever comes in goes back out into it. We pay for our tickets ourselves. We pay for our tickets for the breakfast, and we pay for our tickets for the dinner at Anthony's. So the only ones who go free are the honorees, just the honorees. They go free. But everybody else pays, including the committee. That's the way we believe it should be. Even though we work hard, the rewarding of working hard to us is seeing, looking out at Anthony's and seeing that all the seats are all filled up, all the chairs are all filled up, and the same thing with this breakfast. Get on top of the stage there and looking out into everybody and see that there's not an empty table there. They're all loaded up. And that's our reward, by seeing all the neighborhood people and the people from our neighborhood.
Okay, well, we're coming to a close here. We've got about a minute left. Sparky and John, the information is below on the screen there. And for those residents who may be watching, hopefully some of you were from the neighborhood back then. That's the information. And I'd like to extend North Haven's thank you to both Sparky and John for helping bringing together those in North Haven and those from other communities who may not have seen each other for many years and who have the opportunity to reconnect on a personal basis, sharing the wonderful memories of that rich heritage of St. Patrick's Church back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. It's Been a pleasure to have you both on our show, Sparky
Mike,
and
thanks
John.
for doing it, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sparky, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Freda, North Haven's first selectman. Thank you.